Welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. Today's episode is all about shelf sitter or tabletop Christmas decor. I hope these items inspire you and that you find something you would love to try. If you like crafting, DIYs, dupes, hacks, thrift flips, or just creating in general, I would love if you would consider subscribing. If you like any of today's projects, remember to hit that thumbs up, but let's go make some DIYs. I've been seeing these windows a lot more at Dollar Tree. I keep hoping that they bring more and more different styles of them out because they're so fun to do DIYs with. This one is just kind of like a chipboard type material. In the springtime, I've seen like the plastic, almost like a frame type material, and they've had like the little words in the center of them. This is nice because it doesn't have any words in the middle. I don't have any glue I have to remove or anything. It just has that little sign at the bottom, which I am going to cover up. These tree ornaments all came from Hobby Lobby. The two white ones came in a pack of like 4 for just a couple of dollars, and the other one came from just the ornament section. But Dollar Tree does have the wooden cutout ones that you could easily use for this if you could find them. I just haven't been able to find any of those yet this year. Now, I have this wreath that came off of a garland that I had bought so I could cut all the little wreaths off of it. And but you could easily use, I showed you those little evergreen picks from Dollar Tree. You could use those to use for the wreath instead. Now, I'm just gluing those trees down. If you wanted to paint these a green color or you wanted to put some scrapbook paper or something on them to give it a little bit more visual interest, go ahead and do that. Do what you have, what works for you. I just wanted this to kind of have more of a neutral color. I really love how this turns out, but I just glue those two on the side there so they're kind of covering that sign up there on the bottom. And then I'm just going to glue this in the middle. So I'm just kind of eyeballing where I want it to sit. And I do want this window to stand. So when I glue it on, I will kind of stand it up to make sure that all of the trees are flat and it's not going to be like front heavy and flip it over. And you can kind of see me doing that here. And then the one ornament does have the hole in the top, and I will cover that up with a cute little bow. Now I'm just showing you here, if you wanted to glue some tumbling tower blocks onto the back to help that stand up, that would be an option for you, but I end up doing something else, but just showing you how that looks if you want to do that. Now look how cute that little wreath looks on this cute little window there. I got some buffalo check ribbon. I stuck with that neutral kind of farmhouse palette, and I just tied that in a little shoestring bow and put that right over the top of that. And I thought it would be fun to tie the wreath in with another bow as well. I do have a commenter every once in a while that asks me if I have to attach a bow to everything. Yes, I do. It's me. Do what works for you. If some berries would be really cute glued around that wreath, leave it plain, do a twine bow, whatever is your style, go ahead and do that. So I'm just gluing that wreath on there because I thought that looked really, really cute. And then I have this little riser that I made in one of my tiered tray videos. It's just a coaster with some little beads on the bottom of it for some little feet. And I'm going to fix this to the back of this because I want to use it to have a candle. Now you could easily use one of these signs that like from Dollar Tree or Hobby Lobby. If you don't want to make a riser, go ahead and paint it up and glue it onto the back and it's going to work just fine. You could even just put a candle behind it, and I'm just showing you here the coaster. These came from Hobby Lobby, and I just put some plaster over the front of it to paint it. If you would like to do a candle just behind it, but I wanted the candle raised a little bit. But I set that coaster down and I put one of my favorite candles from Amazon, which I'll link below. These are just battery operated candles, and I just thought this was a darling little window with that little light shining behind it. This is going to be so elegant and beautiful, and not only is it great for Christmas, but it's going to be perfect for all winter long. I picked up this frame from the thrift store, and I also have this darling Santa ornament from Walmart. He was just a couple of dollars that I got, and this is the frame right here. It was $1.50 that I picked up. I hate this twine bow on there. I'm not sure the original picture frame came with that. I think that might have been added afterwards, but I wasn't a fan. Now, I did a project with this same Santa face last year, and it was wildly popular. It was very Victorian, very neutral. So I thought I would do this one adding a pop of color. Now, I didn't love the pink color on the frame, so I thought I would paint it black, and then I'm going to use a Crackle medium. Now, in full disclosure, if I had to do this again, I don't think I would do this with the colors I'm using. I'm going to do a red over it, but the problem with the Crackle medium is you can't do multiple coats of the paint because you'll paint right over like the Crackle aspect that you had. So when I'm playing the Crackle medium down here, I mean, I'll just kind kind of walk you through this and I'll show you what I mean. So you just want to put kind of a thin layer of this Crackle medium all over your darker colored surface. And then when you go back in after this dries, it's going to make your paint do this really cool Crackle texture. I did red paint, and if you know with red paint, it takes several coats to get a good coverage to have a bright red. And so I feel like if I had done a brighter green, that would have worked a little bit better. But I was really just kind of wanting to go for a red and white look. But it almost has, I don't know, you could see the black paint through even without the Crackle medium there. So I think if I was to do it again, I would just start with painting the frame red a couple of times, doing a couple coats, and then going back in with a little bit of black dry brushing to kind of distress it, or maybe not even at all. It looks great in the end, but just in full disclosure, I thought I would share that with you. So you can kind of see how when it dries, it really is just a dark red because you can see a lot of the black through it. Now I have this is just some sheet music that I printed off. I just Googled Christmas sheet music free printable. I found this Joy to the World that I printed out, and I'm just going to match it, cut it to the size of the frame. Now this glass does not come out of the frame, so I'm going to be gluing it to the front, which I actually do like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crumple this up. I love to make the paper look like it's aged and old. It brings texture into a project, and it also just kind of brings a little, I'm going to age it, so it'll have a little bit of a contrast color to it. And I love the way it turns out. Now this is just the distressing ink that you can pick up at Michael's, Hobby Lobby. I think I got mine at JoAnns actually. So this stuff is wonderful. These are just kind of little sample pads that I've had. The ink is starting to dry out, but I just mist it with my little mister bottle and it works great. So until I have to buy new ones, I'm just using these little sample sizes. When you go over them with the different colors, it will just pick up all of the little crumpled areas that you made and just really make it look aged. So this is just some Mod Podge I'm putting down on the frame here and just kind of getting that all over, and then I'll just place this paper down and then just gently push it in. Now because we rubbed that distressing ink over all the crumpled parts, even though this is going to lay flat on the glass, you'll still see all of those wrinkles and everything because we did that texture and that distressing ink. It's really cool. And I'm just placing my Santa down there to see how it looks. Now I apologize, my camera stopped recording right here, which I don't know why, but you can see here I'm just taking some little ends of a pick and I glue on either side of the top of the frame there. And then I'm just taking this ribbon right here that I have that matches all of my Christmas decor. And I'm just showing you that I glued the little picks on either side. Now I just took my ribbon and I did kind of just like a circle like this, and then you'll just take it and fold it in the middle so it crumples down like a bow, and then you just glue a little piece of ribbon around it to pinch it in the middle. And you can just put a couple, like a strip behind for tails if you want to have the little tails on there, and then I just glued that piece on. I also just took some E6000 and some hot glue to put on the back of my Santa, and that's what's holding him down. You definitely want that E6000 because he is heavy. So if you pick up this Santa at Walmart, just know that he's heavy. You're gonna want that extra hold. I love the pop of color in this one. The one I made last year was very neutral, but I love that pop of red and the greenery on there. I think that really makes this piece. What a beautiful addition to your Christmas decor. I want to make a really pretty display with some antique spools, which I don't have any of, so I'm going to create my own using some coasters, some of these Dollar Tree rounds, and then these are just a couple of ends from some bottle brush trees. These are inspired by a DIY my friend Patty from Patty J. Good did last year for Christmas, so I thought I would try my own. Now on these wood rounds from Dollar Tree, they have this hole drilled into them, so I'm just filling that in with some hot glue. You could use some spackling, or you could just leave it if it didn't bother you. Now on the center of my smaller spool, I am just using the end of a foam brush, like the little wooden handle. And for the other two sizes, this is a cardboard tube from the inside of some vinyl that I had with my cutting machine. I just used my hand saw and I cut it down to 2 different lengths. And I'm just using my fingernail file to clean up any of that raw cardboard edge, so that way I have a nice clean edge to work with. and then they will be staggering height. It's kind of hard to tell right here, but you'll see in the end display. These coasters came from Hobby Lobby. They are currently in stock in the fall kitchen area. They're 40% off, so if you're wanting to grab those, I just removed all of the little non-slip stickies on the bottom of them, so that way you have a nice clean surface to work with. When I glued the tubes on, I did use hot glue on all of these, but I will say that I think if I had to do this over again, I would use a little more of a permanent glue, like a Gorilla Glue, maybe some E6000 or a combination. I feel like these will hold fine for one season with the hot glue, but to store them year after year, I feel like maybe a more permanent glue would be a better option for you, so just take note of that. I wanted to have a variation in the stains on all of them, the different colors, the different wood tones, because I feel like when you see displays like at Vintage Market Days or the antique fairs, you see displays of these old spools, there is a lot of variation in the different colors, different types, and so I thought in different textures even. So I thought having like the beaded edge on the one and the different colors was a really fun, like eye-catching element to them. So now I'm just going to tear some different fabrics. I kind of went with Christmas tones in the fabrics, reds, greens, so that way you could really make these for any season if you wanted to keep them out year round. It would be kind of fun to come up with some different colors of fabric. But I just ripped them into strips so you had a really raw edge on these, and that way when you wind them around the different spools, you kind of get that look of that it's tattered and aged and kind of old. And you can see I'm just using a little bit of the hot glue to glue these on. Now this part, the hot glue is fine to use, so I was totally fine with this. I just felt like if you were going to store these and wrap them up, I felt like that hot glue might kind of come unhooked from the spool's edge. So that's why I mentioned that on that portion of the DIY, but getting this fabric on, the hot glue will work just fine. This isn't rocket science as you're doing this. It's fairly simple and easy, and you can watch and see exactly how I do this, but just every couple of times that I wrap it around, I'll put a little dab of glue to kind of help hold that down in place. And then when I get to the very end of the strip, I will glue that one down, and then I go back to the other end of the spool and kind of work my way towards the center, just making sure you're getting full coverage over that entire center piece so you don't see any of that cardboard, which is why I have several strips of fabric that I'm using. That way I can make sure I have the coverage that I want, and it looks like it's just kind of leftover scraps left on these vintage spools that we're making. On my middle size of spool, I'm using a red fabric on here. It's kind of a red, almost like candy cane stripe was what it made me think of. And that's what's so fun about these, is you can personalize them so much to your own decor and the kind of fabrics that you would like. So the possibilities are endless. Now I'm just using one big long strip of fabric for this size, so it's going to be wrapped a little bit differently than the first one, which is really nice because it kind of gives each of them their own little story to tell, or their own little difference. And it's kind of the little touches that you put into your DIYs like this that really drive home that appearance of authenticity. It gives them that nice, just the little things always take your projects over the top. So just remember that when you're doing them. Now, when I get this all the way wound up, I just take another piece of that same fabric and I tie it off in the middle. It goes around a couple of times, and then I tie it just in a knot, just as if somebody from 100 years ago had a little bit of scraps on this fabric and they just tied it off and left it. On the edge of the fabric where I cut it, I just take my fingernail and kind of fray the edge a little bit so it also has that aged, tattered look instead of having a fresh cut look on it. I follow just the exact same steps on this smaller size. Now you could use some smaller strips of fabric on this, but also some ribbon might be really cute, or some embroidery thread, or even some twine to kind of differentiate it even more. I just have a little bit of a different color. This is like a khaki green fabric that I thought tied in really well. Now on the top of these, I just take these bottle brush trees that have been wildly popular over the last few years, and I'm just going to glue them onto the top of each of these. There's 3 different sizes of trees that I put on each one, and as a grouping, this is just going to look absolutely beautiful. Now on that little teeny spool that I have there, I decide to kind of change it up a bit, and I tie a little bit of Baker's, the red and white Baker's thread. Baker's twine, is that what it's called? I think that's what it's called. But I just tie that on there to bring a little bit more red, Christmassy, a little bow in there, just like it had been tied up with some thread. I thought it kind of was a fun little element to add to that, so keep that in mind also. But look at how beautiful all 3 of these are together. Just even one of them is going to be beautiful in your decor, but to have a grouping like this, and maybe you already have some of these spools sitting around that you could do something like this with, but these trees are so popular to kind of stack on different things in your winter and Christmas decor, and I just thought this would be such a fun way to display these. I'm excited to have these sitting on my shelf, scattered with some different winter and Christmas decor amongst them. What do you guys think of these? Is this something that you would try? I love my sugar mold so much, and I decorate it for all different seasons so it can stay up year round. So I'm going to show you how I do it for Christmas. So I have originally put some Spanish moss down into each of the little holes there, and so I'm just placing those back in because I will want them in there for this one. Now I'm just taking some ribbon that I picked up. I got this ribbon this year at JoAnns, and it's actually the ribbon I put all over my Christmas tree this year, so this will definitely tie in my decor with my Christmas tree. So I love doing different things like that. And I'm just making sure I have this ribbon really crisp and straight here. It was a little bent on the edge here, so I'm just making sure that the front portion of this, anyway, where this sits in my home, you do not see the back of it. So just keep that in mind as I do this, that the back you definitely can tell is the back. So if you have one of these and you want it from a 360 view, just maybe make some different alterations to what I do so that way you can tell. But you'll see what I mean by you'll be able to tell which is the back here in just a moment. Now I'm just putting the glue on here so I can fold this ribbon over to make it look as clean as possible. Even though the back is going to be against a wall so you will not see it, I still want to do my best to make it look as clean as possible. So I'm just putting some hot glue and folding the edge of the ribbon over. Now I've had a few of you ask me like what makes this a sugar mold or what is a sugar mold, and the best research that I can find is that it's what bakers used to keep like their brown sugar in to store it, so like a lot of like cake makers and stuff. So that's the most information that I've been able to find. I did place glue on the back to hold that ribbon in place, and then since this is at an angle, it's thicker at the top than it is the bottom. It kind of gradually shrinks in size. I pulled that ribbon as tight as I could at the base, so that way you can that way my ribbon's not straight in the back, but it makes it sit as flush as possible here. So I do put a couple of little glue dots there to hold this in place. When that dries, you won't be able to see those, especially with what I'm going to put on the front. It will mask those as well. So I just want this to be as flush as possible around the whole sugar mold. Now I have these rusted jingle bells. I picked these up at JoAnns, and I thought they were really cute and would be the perfect addition. They do blend in a little bit on camera here. You can't see them as well as you can in person, but it is just kind of a different visual element to add. So you could use anything that you have or skip this at all. I just like adding a little extra touch, a little embellishment. Let's plus the item a little bit and have it be that little extra go over the top. I really think that makes your pieces look high end. Now you can kind of see how those jingle bells are there. You could place them down further over the ribbon, but I found this darling ornament here that says joy, and I'm just going to unscrew the little eye hook out of this so it takes it from an ornament to just a little decoration piece here. I'm just going to eyeball where I'm placing it to make sure that is exactly where I want to put it. Now, since I decorate my sugar mold for different seasons, I like to add the ribbon as a base because I glue my things to the ribbon and not to the sugar mold. It is wood, and it's like a waxed wood, so you're able to kind of peel off the hot glue if hot glue does get on it, like where I put a couple glue dots underneath the ribbon. But I like to glue most of my stuff to the ribbon so that way when I change it out for different seasons, it just comes right off when I take that ribbon apart, and all of my little embellishments come right off. And those bells, I would just unscrew the wire in the back to take those off. Now these trees came from Walmart, and I picked up 3 of them, and I'm just taking off the little burlap sacks. They didn't fit well in my sugar mold. I tried them with and without the Spanish moss and everything, and I did not love the height that was giving, so that's why I decided to remove them. So try that with your trees that you pick out or whatever you put in here. Just kind of see what works best. Now this would easily, you could do this in like a wood box. It wouldn't have to be a sugar mold. You can kind of use this for any type of maybe wood boxes you have, or 3 of like the little Dollar Tree wood boxes, the drawer boxes, glue a couple of those together to be able to do a project similar to this. I put some styrofoam, just some leftover styrofoam in each of the top of those sugar mold holes, and that Spanish moss that's down there is what's stopping those from going down further. So that Spanish moss is kind of holding those into place. You can glue it to the Spanish moss if you want, but mine was a tight enough fix. I didn't have to do that. So I'm just putting a little bit of glue on each of the trees. Now, I don't know if this particular method was better than what I do next, if I should have changed the order that I did, but I decided I want some Spanish moss to cover that, and I knew that was what I was going to do, but I really thought that it would be better for me to glue the trees in the styrofoam first because you have such a little amount of the wire that you're working with, and I thought if I had to glue it on top of the Spanish moss, I wouldn't even make contact with the styrofoam. So I glued those in, and then this middle one came out quite easily here for me to place the Spanish moss around. This is just covering that styrofoam so we don't see it. So you kind of determine what might work best for you. Maybe your stem on your tree is really long, and so you could glue that Spanish moss down. That would definitely be a little bit easier, but this works just the same. So you can see I will cut a little bit of it off here. Now I buy my Spanish moss in big bags from the craft store. They do sell it at the Dollar Tree, but I feel like if you get it on sale at the craft store, you get a much better deal, value for it. You'll pay $6 or $7 for a bag, but it lasts you forever, and you get maybe twice the amount that you would get from Dollar Tree if you spent that much on the little bags that they have. So keep that in mind. I mean, the stuff from Dollar Tree works fine if you just have some of that. Now for the rest of these trees, the other two, I'm just going to leave them in place and hold up the bristles of the brush tree there, and you can see it exposes that styrofoam, and I will just be able to slip some of that Spanish moss in, and I will just go 360 all the way around those trees to make sure it is covered really, really well. The Spanish moss kind of can get a little out of control, so just give it a little haircut with your scissors or snip some back. I think it's kind of fun and rustic to have some of the pieces kind of coming out, but you don't want it to be too over the top, so I'm just going to kind of trim it back a little bit, but I really like the rustic look of it, kind of looking a little shaggy. Now I could have left it with just the 3 trees and it would have been beautiful that way, but I had some littler trees that matched these bigger ones, 2 of them, and so I thought it would be kind of fun to add those in, and it's just kind of a space filler, so it kind of is a matter of personal preference. But overall, I'm so excited to have this out, and really I feel like this could go all the way through January. It's not specific Christmas. I mean, it's got the colors, it has the joy ornament on there, but it's not over the top Christmas. So I think it is something, one of those pieces you could leave out all through winter. What do you guys think? Is this something I could leave out all winter? Let me know what you think. But overall, I think it turns out beautiful. I'll try and leave a link for a sugar mold down in my description box to see. They had sold out on Amazon at one time, but maybe they're back in stock and I will place them there. So if you want to invest in one, you definitely can, because they're so fun to switch up for different seasons. I have these little red blocks from a different like home decor Christmas piece that I've had for years, but I'm ready to kind of change it up. So I kept the little blocks, took off the decals that were on them to use for another project so that way I can repurpose them. And I'm just taking some sage color chalk paint, and I wanted it to be a little bit darker, so I just added some antiquing wax. It's just the Waverly antiquing wax that I put in there, and I'm just going to use this as my color. Now against that red, it doesn't look the greatest right now, but once you get it all covered up, I really do like the color. It's kind of a grayish green, really neutral, really pretty. Now this ornament came from Walmart. I've seen wood trees kind of like this at Dollar Tree or Five Below or somewhere else I've seen them besides Walmart, but they're so fun. Pick up a couple of them because I feel like they're so versatile. Now to turn this from an ornament into something that you're working with, I'm just taking some pliers and holding on to that eye hook, and I'm just unscrewing that from the top, so that way you don't have that piece right there. It's such a fun thing to use for tiered tray decor or different little knick-knack decor that you want, is just take some ornament pieces and take that little hanging portion out, and voila, you have such a beautiful piece to use. Now these mini ornaments also came from Walmart. They do them every year. They have different designs each year, so this is this year's design, and I love this piece on earth. I thought that was so cute. And if you have some from years past, they had some really cute Christmas tree farm ones that I thought would be really cute, but I'm just using some current pieces for this. So just using some hot glue, I'm going to center that the best I can. You guys know I love to eyeball things, so I just kind of feel with my fingers to make sure I have the closest to center there. And now I'm just going to put some glue onto this tree. You could even use some super glue. You don't necessarily have to use hot glue from this, but I feel like hot glue would work just fine. So once that kind of, I have it dried just a little bit so it doesn't come like seeping out over the edges or anything there. And then I'm just going to center that, and I'm going to use my fingers, you can kind of see there, to kind of feel the front and the back and the sides to make sure I get as close to even. That's kind of how I eyeball things. So do what you will with your methods. I'm sure it's going to work great. But in the end, this is just such a cute little shelf sitter. It would be beautiful on a tiered tray or mixed in with a bunch of different decor pieces. Even if you were making a bunch of these to sell, I think these would be adorable. I love them. I would love to know your thoughts on this. If you like this, do you guys want to see some tiered tray decor? I haven't done any Christmas tiered tray decor this year, and I'm kind of itching to do some. So let me know if you guys would like to see that. But overall, I think this is a beautiful piece. I love the natural look it has to it and kind of that neutral vibe. I have this cute little Coca-Cola tin. I got it from my mother-in-law's house when she was cleaning out some of her decor items, and she had a whole pile of stuff that was headed for the thrift store, so I grabbed this. If you don't have a tin, use one of these little containers from Dollar Tree. They have all different shapes and sizes, but I've seen all over Pinterest some little junk boxes decorated for Christmas, and I thought they were so fun, and I wanted to take my hand at trying one. Now, I bought this ornament specifically to do this. I thought it looked very retro and very cute. He was just a couple of dollars with the 50% off, and I am just cutting off his little hanging tag there. It was tin, so I could snip it off, and then I just sanded it with my fingernail file, so there's no sharp edges or anything. But that is the only thing I purchased for this. Everything else was just scraps of what I had. So I'm just taking some scrapbook paper. This was just a piece I'd cut some out of from a project I did earlier, and I'm just cutting it to match my lid. Now, some of these that I saw did not have lids, so I could have left it off, but I thought it would be kind of cute to have this plaid peeking out and have the back of this tin. I picked this tin because it had that green color to it. It is a beachy scene on there for Coke, not a cute Christmas scene, but you know, if you live in a warmer climate, it works, and it's what I had, so I'm going with it. Now, to fill my box up here, this little container, I'm just using a plastic sack there. I'm getting some hot glue. Floral foam would work fine, but I actually feel like I liked this better. I'm just taking, this is just something that from one of my Amazon packages came wrapped in this brown paper here. And so I put a bunch of hot glue down on that plastic bag, and I'm just going to tuck this all in so it's glued to that surface. And I just thought this was a great base to work with. Again, something free that I had at my home that I'm just repurposing. But I'm just making sure all of the edges are tucked around so you don't see that plastic sack anywhere. Now, I kept going back and forth between my Christmas decor items, just pulling out bits and pieces that I had left over from other projects or things, little scraps that I had. Literally everything that I used was stuff that I already had on hand that I was recycling or was left over from another project. So go through all of your Christmas items as you're getting your home decor up. If you have any little pieces you're tired of, or maybe a part of it broke off or something, keep it and try one of these. I had so much fun putting this together. Now, this is just a tree that I'd used in one of my sugar molds one year, and I had changed it out for something different this year, so I am just gluing it in, and I'm just using hot glue. It dries really quick, and so that's why I liked using it, but use whatever glue you would like. But I put that tree in, and then this Santa, and they're the main focal points of this cute little junk box here. Now, I had this came on a little wreath that I had from a thrift store years ago that I used the greenery off of, and I've been hanging on to that little sheet music and that little French horn. But again, use what you've got. I mean, this is so fun to be able to take even some pieces that you might have they're so small that you don't know what to do with, and put them in a little art piece like this, and then you've got it. I just think it's such a fun idea. So I'm just sticking another little tree in. A lot of this was back and forth, trying to find pieces and dry fitting them in and deciding whether I liked it there or not before I actually committed and glued it. But I'll just kind of have you watch what I do here. I mean, look at how cute this is looking. This is one of my most favorite projects I've ever made. I thought it turned out so cute. But I'll just have you kind of watch my process here and just see everything that I'm doing with putting this together. One thing I did right here is I couldn't get that little peppermint to stand up, so I just crumpled a little bit more of that brown paper and just glued it right in to prop it up. So that's something to keep in mind to do. That's why it's so nice to use that brown paper because it blends in, but you can also use it to kind of fill in different spots. Now, I had glued that French horn in, but decided I wanted to put something else there. So it took me a minute with my heat tool to melt that glue, but I mean, it was super easy once I got that heat tool out, and I just kind of moved things around so I could fit that cute little mug that I had. I bought it on clearance last year and thinking I was going to do something for Valentine's. I never did anything with it. So now it's part of this little junk box, and I think it turns out so cute. Once you have all of your leftover ornaments or trees or pieces that you're putting in your junk box, you can take a little bit of greenery. This is just from my stash of different picks that I have, leftover bits and pieces that I'm just going to glue in and kind of fill anywhere that I feel like it maybe needs a little more greenery. This is the juniper branch, I think, pick from Walmart that has these beautiful little red berries all over. I love this. It just kind of ties in that red and green Christmas feel. And then I'm just taking a little bit of moss, whether it be reindeer moss or whatever. Maybe you've got your own moss that you preserved. Just kind of tucking that in. If you can see that brown paper, that's great too. But I just thought that this kind of brought in a little bit more greenery into it. But look at how beautiful this turns out. I mean, how fun is this? And I guarantee you've got a lot of little Christmas things hanging around your decor, little bits and pieces, as I like to call them, that you could totally bring together and make a beautiful little Christmas junk box like this. I mean, I hate to use the word junk with it, but I know that's what they call them. But oh my gosh, I just think this is so fun and so beautiful and has that great vintage vibe. I'm so excited to use this in my decor this year. What do you guys think? Have you hopped on this trend? Have you tried this? Do you think you're going to try it? I would love to know your thoughts on this. This project is so fun and simple, and it's something that you can use throughout the entire year. It's not specific just to Christmas. In fact, I've actually done this project for a couple of other seasons on my channel, and I just love it. So you just need one of these solid signs from Dollar Tree. It can be either the solid wood ones or the composite material such as this. It doesn't matter. It just can't be hollow. And all I'm going to do is just take my fingernail file and sand off the edges. I do not need to remove the graphic that's on here because I will be gluing cardstock over the top of it. And so the cardstock will be opaque. You will not be able to see this design through. If you're going to be doing something like painting it, you don't want that moisture of the paint to go through that graphic and bubble it up. And if you're going to be doing something thin like a tissue paper, you will want to peel this graphic back. Now I took this outside and I cut it down to be 3 inches high on each of these little blocks here. And you can do this with a table saw, a hand saw I've used several times. In fact, when I did a live on my channel and made these, I used just a table saw to do that, or a hand saw, and it works great. I'll put a link to those down in my description box if you're interested in checking them out on Amazon, but you can get them at any hardware store. They run about $10. Now I just sanded and smoothed out each of the edges of these blocks. You can see here that I got 5 blocks, or actually 6 blocks, out of one of those signs from Dollar Tree. So if you were to take these and sell these at a craft fair, you're paying like $1.25 for the sign, but you can get 6 projects out of this. You can sell them as a group for easily like $18 or $20, I feel like. That's, you can sell each one individually $3, $4, depending on the market that you live in. But it's definitely a great, inexpensive project to be able to get a very good return when you're reselling these. Now I'm just using my trusty Elmer's purple school glue stick. I love this. It works wonders for items like this. I love it so much more than Mod Podge. I will go over the top of these at the end with Mod Podge, but to do the actual getting this to stick to the surface, that Elmer's school glue is great. I'm just using my brayer here just to get a nice firm hold, making sure all of the edges have been pushed down. It just creates a really good bond. And you can see I'm just going to flip over the block and do the exact same thing on the other side. Now, I've made this mistake way too many times, so I feel that I'm just going to share it because someone out there is probably just like me and goes to glue these together and flips it over to look at both sides and realize you've glued one side upside down. So every time I go to make these, I feel that happens to me at least once. So learn from my mistakes. I'm just letting you know if that matters to you and you want to be able to see it from the back side, make sure you're gluing them down right sides so that way one's not upside down. Now these are so fun because say you wanted to put a Christmas design on one side, you could flip it over and just put a beautiful winter scene or snowman on the other side. So that way during the season when Christmas was over, you could just walk around your house and flip these around to the other side. Christmas is put away and you've got a nice winter display out. It's also fun to be able to do like fall on one side and Christmas on the other, or you can do patriotic on one side for summertime and then flip it over and have like a nice cute just summer flower or something on there. They're so versatile and these are such great items to resell. People love these. They're just beautiful little tray sitters or shelf sitters. I just tucked these all over my home with my Christmas decor and they were so cute. And honestly, it's something that a lot of like, if you have people come over, this was the item people could like pick up in their hand, just really easy. They would pick it up and be like, oh, that's so cute. And they just loved them. So it's a beautiful, easy project and it's just super fun and quick to make. Don't forget to clean up the edges when you're doing these signs though. I just take a fingernail file and go within a downward motion over all of the edges. This is just going to take any of that excess cardstock off and it's going to make this look like it was actually printed and made to go on your block. It's just such a great way to finish a piece and I recommend anytime you're doing any type of decoupage, using any type of medium to do this after the glue has dried to give that nice clean look. It just really elevates your piece to the next level. Since I want these to have a little bit of an aged look, I'm taking just a little bit of antiquing wax on like a baby wipe or a wet paper towel, and I will just go around the edge of each of these, especially where we sanded the edge to make it match the surface there to give that clean edge. It does sometimes expose a little bit more of that white cardstock. This just kind of helps mute that and kind of blend it in. And I just really like the aged look. You can even go a little bit further into the graphic to kind of make it look like a vignette style. So that way it kind of is framing the picture. It's up to you how much you want to use this, but I do recommend at least going around the very edge just to give a nice finished look to it. You can see here I'm just taking some Mod Podge and this is how I'm sealing them in. You can use a satin, you can use a matte, which is what I'm using here. It just depends on what you want your decor to be like. But I do like the matte just because then you can kind of see when it's wet, you have that glare on it. If you use just the glossy kind, you'll always have that kind of glare with the bright lights and everything. So that's why I kind of like using the matte on these just to have a different finish. But I think these turn out so pretty. Perfect little shelf sitters. You could do all sorts of different little blocks with different pictures on them for different things in your home. You could even do like kids' pictures on these. If you didn't want to do graphics, you could have one for each family member or something. I just think these are so fun and just such a great technique to know and have for all different seasons. I love using pieces from Hobby Lobby's clearance section. If you guys have watched me for any length of time, you know that I love picking these items up and I just keep them in my stash because they really are such a great deal than just buying true like signed blanks, because you can get such wonderful pieces at such cheap prices and you just change the way that they look completely. So this is inspired by something I saw in a catalog last Christmas and it's been in my mind for a long time and I thought this is the perfect sign to do this with. So I taped off all of the frames so I could paint it and not have any paint get on that beautiful frame that was on this. And I'm just going to peel that back after giving this probably about 4 coats to get the coverage that I wanted. Now I did use my cutting machine to cut this out because I have the world's worst handwriting. If you guys have watched me, you know that I do not freehand anything well. Stenciling, I do stencil quite a bit though. I don't usually use my cutting machine all that often, but I did want to for this particular project because I loved this font here, and I'll list the font down in my description box, so if you want to try and replicate this, you can. But stencils would be so cute, even using Dollar Tree stickers. Now you can have different red trucks from anywhere. I'm just showing you a few that were in my stash from Dollar Tree, or one was off of a garland. I have this wood cutout that I never used last year, and I thought it would be really cute because I wanted to put the red buffalo check paper on it. So I'm just tracing out the silhouette really of this truck here, and I'm just going to cut it out, and then we'll glue it on just using that famous purple school glue you guys have seen me use 100 times. I really do love this glue. It works so well. So I just carefully line up my truck as best as I can. I didn't cut it so exact. I wanted there to be a little bit of an edge because I will, after I use my brayer, of course. This just helps get that really good bond with your paper and your surface. I take my sander here, just my fingernail file, and definitely a fingernail file works so good for these little pieces like this. And I will just sand off the edge of the paper to have a really good look. Now, if you're worried about paper edges, I'm just taking a little bit of black paint on my baby wipe and going around the edge to cover any type of white paper that you might see when you do that. Now I have this tree that came, this is a Dollar Tree tree, and I thought it was so cute and bushy. I did just use some, not pliers, but some trimmers. I can't think of the word right now, but anyway, I cut the wire off. Wire cutters, that's probably what they're called. I cut the wire cutters, use the wire cutters. My goodness, I'm struggling. Anyway, I cut the base of the tree off, and I'm just using some hot glue to glue this into the truck here. And then to have it fit flat on the surface, I did just kind of bend apart the bristles on this I almost called it a brush, but it's a tree. It's like a bristle brush tree, I think is what they call them, or a bottle brush tree, something. You'll have to let me know down in the comments for sure what it's called, because I'm not quite sure. My mind is still trying to get totally into this Christmas mode here. But I'm just using some little blocks there, as you saw, to glue onto the back of the truck to help pop it out, have a little bit of a 3D look. And if I needed to cut any of those bristles off on that tree, I did that to make sure that it would fit as flat as I could on the surface. And then I'm just using my heat gun to get any of the hot glue little strings that you get. This just kind of melts those away really easily. But look at how darling this sign is. I think it is so cute. And you just read that and you just kind of can't help but sing it in your head. And I just think that little plaid truck looks darling on here. What do you guys think of this piece? Do you like it?
Have you been able to find these cute little tin reindeer at Dollar Tree? I just think they're so cute, and they come in a couple different patterns, but I'm going to give this one a little bit of a makeover. There's so many different fun DIYs I've seen out there, but I'm just using some pliers to remove the deer from the little wooden stand. If it was a little difficult for me to do, if you have a hard time, you could even just tape around the base, so that way you're not going to get any paint on it if you want to kind of leave it, or you could just paint it along with the deer if you want. I'm going to give this kind of that aged metal look here. I'm just painting it all black, and I will do the front and the back. This is just some black chalk paint just to start with your base. I think that the black looks really pretty. We're going to give this kind of a gold tone to it as well. And I just think the black has a really good undertone to it. But you could, of course, go through with whatever type of color you wanted to have be your underneath color. I'm just taking a little bit of black paint here after that first coat, and I'm going to mix some baking soda in with it. This is just, I'm doing this on a plate here. Do not worry about that red paint. It's dry. I'm just reusing my plate as many times as I can before I have to absolutely throw it away. Now I'm just going to mix this baking soda in. This is going to give a really nice texture to our paint. You could also use some spackling with a little bit of paint mixed in if you would like to. Some sand if you have to put, it's just something to give it a little bit of texture. So because we really want to lay that texture on thick, so when we do give this its final finish, that it really has the bumpy look to it. You'll see what I mean as we go on here. Now I'm just going up and down, kind of like in a stippling motion, just putting this texture on. You'll notice with the baking soda that it's not really like in a spreadable consistency. So you do kind of want to, not in the traditional sense as like paint. But I mean, if you were to use a putty knife, you could probably spread it. But with your brush, you're just going up and down in that pouncing motion. You can kind of hopefully see the texture here when I zoom in, kind of see what it looks like there. So you're just going to go over all of this. Now you can give the texture to the back if you would like to. You can leave the back plain black. You can even finish the back the same as you do the front. That's completely up to you. Now I'm just taking some Rub and Buff. This is that gold color. It has such a nice, beautiful tone to it. I'm really kind of going for this nice woodland vibe with the rich tones, kind of those really like the gold and the black and the deep browns is really what I'm kind of feeling with this piece. And you can see here, I'm just going to rub that Rub and Buff on. I eventually switch over to my finger on this particular piece though. Some of the ones when I've done bells before, it's worked really well with a paper towel, but with the texture on this, it was kind of eating through the paper towel, if that makes sense. So I'm just, I switch over to my finger in just a moment and kind of rub it on. I felt like I could get the texture and the coverage I wanted. So don't be afraid to do that. It washes right off your finger. You're not going to be walking around with gold tipped fingers for weeks or anything like that. But you can see that beautiful texture coming through. And here was where I kind of start going through with my finger because I wanted it to have a little more of the heavier gold tone than the black, and just kind of have the black peek through. Like, again, this was just a piece that was just sitting, aging for years, something that has stood the test of time. I just thought it was a really fun way to take a piece that, even though it was cute in that buffalo check, that it just shows you that you can take a piece and change it to match your decor or what you're envisioning. And of course, you wouldn't have to just singly do this on the reindeer. Maybe you've got another piece at home already that you're thinking that you could do this on to have in your decor to kind of change something up. Now for the base, I'm just taking some antiquing wax. I wanted to make this look a lot richer. That more deep woodsy brown color, kind of like tree bark, is kind of what I'm going for here. So just some antiquing wax that I'm going to rub onto this. Now it is like a composite, it's not actual wood. So when you go onto the edges, it absorbs it like you would not believe. So instead of pouring your antiquing wax directly on it, you're just going to want to use a brush to kind of go over the edge there. To get this back in, it was very hard for me to actually kind of push this back in. I thought maybe it would just slide right back in. Maybe you'll have a little bit better luck than me, but the tin is very kind of flimsy feeling, so I didn't want to force it because I didn't want to bend that. So on the little stakes that are there, I'm taking just a dowel and just like my little rubber mallet here, and I'm just gently tapping. I don't know if it looks like I'm tapping gently, but trust me, I am, because I did not want this to bend, and just tapping that back down into those holes there. And that's just going to make it, you can kind of see I decided I need to go in just a little bit further. So just a couple little taps there just to make sure that it looks so good and it's really adhered to that. And you just want to make sure none of the legs are like bent or anything like that. So now I thought to dress him up a little bit more, I would give him a little bow tie. So I'm just taking some velvet ribbon. You can see kind of in the right hand bottom corner of my screen. I bought this in the scrapbook section at Hobby Lobby. I just really thought it was a beautiful color of green and was kind of the tone I was going for. So I'm just wrapping it around, giving him a little collar there, and then I had just tied a little bow. You can kind of see on the right hand side of my glue gun there, just a little teeny loop bow that I tied off there, and we'll just go ahead and glue that on to give him his little bow tie. I think this turned out so classy and sophisticated. I just love the way he looks with this cute little bow tie there. This is such a fun technique to take something that looked one way and then completely transform it to this neutral woodland vibe. This texture is such a trend right now, and it is beautiful, I feel, and I just really like how it turned out. And this is such a fun technique to use on any type of piece that you're thinking of. of. It wouldn't just have to be this reindeer, but if it's something that you're liking, you could start those creative juices flowing, thinking what in your home you could give a makeover to. What do you think of this little guy?
This is the very first time that I have ever used any products from IOD, and I saw another crafter using this Christmas rub-on transfer set and thought I have to order this and try this. This is not sponsored in any way. I paid for this. I am using it. This is my first time ever trying this. I'm just showing you what, compared to the size of my hand, the size of some of these transfers. Aren't these beautiful? Dollar Tree makes amazing transfers, but I don't love that they're always just that one size. So I did like that I had an option to do different sizes here. Now look at how I'm measuring. Does anybody else, please tell me that somebody else out there measures this way with their fingers. I do this all the time and I'm just dying. I had to leave this in to show you guys to see if I was the only one out there. Now this little snowman right here, or not snowman, this little Santa right here, I decide that if I turn my sign onto its side, that was what I was going to use. And this is just a sign that I bought on clearance from Hobby Lobby, and I thought it was really cute how it had the layers there, and so it's going to be perfect to do this transfer. And I just sanded off that wording that was on there, had these little tacks on the side that I just used my putty knife to pull those up. And as I was sanding this, the most beautiful like wood color, like whitewashed wood color came up, you can see there. And I thought I'm going to brighten up the base layer of this so it makes that wood pop. And so, because originally I was just going to paint this all white, but I really like the contrast of the wood there. So I'm just going to cut out this darling little vintage Santa here. And you just peel it off just the same as any other transfers that you've probably seen or used. And I'm just going to line him up where I want him positioned on this sign. And then all of the transfers they all come, I guess, with this plastic like rubbing tool that you just use to scrape and rub and use pressure to get that design transferred from your plastic to your surface. So you just gently will lift up to see if that has started to transfer, and it transferred beautifully. It took me just a second when I peeled that up. I went very slowly there, as you can see, to make sure if any of it had not transferred, I would have placed it back down immediately and just rubbed again. And then you just rub your transfer with the back side of that plastic to kind of burnish it on there. Now, I decided that I'm going to do some Dollar Tree stamps. I've been hanging on to these for a while. I've never used them. It comes with a couple different fonts and it's like an alphabet, and I have 2 of them, so that way, and honestly, I'll probably pick up a third if I ever see these again, because I thought, well, if you have a long word, it's nice to be able to put all of the word on there. But I'm just going to put ho, ho, ho on the front of this sign. And I thought it would be really fun to stamp that on here and give this a try. So at this point, I have no idea if this is going to work or not. I was really just crossing my fingers. I made sure the spacing was okay, that it looked all right. And then I just used a little bit of ink there. And I just pressed that down very firmly, trying just to lift it straight up so that way the ink doesn't go anywhere. And at this point I go, oh, it's gonna work. I thought it looked really cute. And so I just put another word on there so that way it says ho, ho, ho. But I think it turns out really well for my first time using stamps on any project, literally since I was probably a little kid. So I'll have to give some more a try and pick some more up when I see at Dollar Tree when I see them. Now, I wanted to make the edge of this transfer blend in with the wood a little bit more than it was. So I'm just gently filing the edge with my fingernail file. And you can kind of see it will take a little bit of it away. I don't want to do too much, just enough to kind of make it look more vintage and blend in with the wood. Now, instead of replacing the initial tacks that were there, I tried placing some wood pieces, which I showed you, which you could easily do. They were a little bulky for what I had or for what I wanted, and I didn't have any smaller ones. So I decided to use the original tacks, but I'm just putting some antiquing wax on them to age them because I don't want them to be that stark metal color that they were. And then I just trim the edge off or clip the edge off with some of those are like jewelry snippers that I have. And so that way I don't have to push them back in. I could just glue them on. Now I'm just going to make this look a little bit more aged on the edges since I did touch up the paint on it, which I know that always sounds like such an oxymoron.
I touched up the paint and now I'm going to make it look more aged, but I kind of wanted to have control over how the aging looked. And then I did some antiquing wax around the edge. Now I could have left it just as it was, but in my opinion, it was looking a little plain. I know everybody has different tastes and you may like the simple look, and I think it would be great, but I just decided to place a little bit of greenery on here to kind of jazz it up a bit. It's Christmas, let's make it look a little bit more festive, I guess. So I decided to not add a bow, which, you know, I love to do. So I'm just doing some greenery and a couple little berries here and just making it symmetrical on either side. And then just this teeny tiny pine cone I had on another set of florals that I trimmed off, and I'm just gluing that onto the top there. I felt like that just really added a nice little touch to make it a little more festive. Now I thought it would be fun to add a little bit of Mod Podge to Santa's trim on his hat and his coat, and also the little pom-pom at the end of his hat, and put a little bit of glitter. If there's ever a time for glitter, I feel like Christmas is it. And it's not a lot. I was very sparse with the glitter, but just enough to add a little shimmer, a little shine, make it look, you know, really Christmassy. I love how this turns out. I feel like it still does have a very simplistic look. I think it turns out very beautifully. It's aged very well. It's high end. I mean, this is a piece that you could sell. I really think that these IOD transfers are worth the investment. They are a little bit of an investment, but the amount of pictures that you get and how beautiful this turned out, I'm impressed, and I will definitely look into some more. What do you guys think of this piece? Are you a fan of it?
This next project is a Pinterest inspired project that I saw somebody had built one, and I had out of like scrap wood for a tree, and I thought, oh, I have a Dollar Tree tree that would be perfect to do this. So I'm going to kind of walk you through the steps on this. So I just traced this Dollar Tree wood tree on some paper that had a really barnwood looking finish on it, and you can kind of see I just kind of cut it out there. And then I love Elmer's glue for projects like this. You guys have seen me use this dozens of times, if not more. And I just make sure to pay attention to the edges, so all of the edges will be down really good. And then I just go all over the surface of the tree. And then I just place this down and line it up as best as I can to make sure that no edges of the wood are showing. I just use my brayer here to make sure that it goes on completely flat. I personally like using this glue stick better than I like Mod Podge. I feel like I have a much higher success rate with it, and it is I've never had a problem with it peeling up as long as you're using the Elmer's purple glue. The Dollar Tree glue that I've seen that's like the Jot brand, I have not had as much success with that. So I just sanded the edges to make sure the paper was clear, but it did make the edge of the paper kind of look torn, or that white color. So I just went over the edge with a little antiquing wax, and while I was there, I just made sure to go over the back of it to give it a finished look. And then you can see I just put a little bit of glue into the little hole that was up there, and then to kind of fill it in, and then just put a little antiquing wax over it. So now I'm going to build a little box to go on the bottom of the tree here. So I just had this little square. They do sell little squares at Dollar Tree. This was just a scrap square that I had, and I cut some paint sticks down to be the size to go on the sides of this here. Now, if you wanted to skip this step, you could use just a little sign like that. They sell signs like that at Dollar Tree that you could use all day long and it would work just fine. I just didn't have one the exact size that I wanted, and so I thought I would just kind of make my own and show you. So I did just kind of eyeball when I cut these. I kind of laid it down on my painter stick and drew the line of where I needed to cut it. These little painter sticks were thin enough that I could cut them with my scissors, but you could use like a little hand saw, miter saw, or if you have a like power miter saw, that would work as well. So now I did just have to file down one of the sides because I didn't quite get the measurement right. So that's why I was using my emery board there to kind of sand it down. And then I just give this a coat of that antiquing wax because it matches that wood on the tree absolutely perfect, I thought. And I just cover all sides of it with that wax. So now I'm just going to take this tree and I'm going to add some glue to the spots where that box will touch. And that's how I am just going to put these two together here. And so I just press that box right up against the tree, and I'm going to make this a little candle stand. So I'm just showing you that you could just put a plain candle in there and embellish just a plain candle. That's one of the faux candles that I love from Amazon. I'll link those below in my description box. But I wanted to kind of make a little jar candle to put a little tea light down into. And this jar just came from Dollar Tree, and I just removed the lid, and I had some Dollar Tree ribbon I was showing you, but I have this ribbon that I have on my Christmas tree, and it kind of matches my decor a little bit more, and it just came from Hobby Lobby. So I'm just going to layer it with that red buffalo check on the bottom,
And then actually this green ribbon, I believe, came from JoAnns. So I'm just letting you know that. But I love this green ribbon. It's not quite an evergreen. Like it's kind of like, I don't know. I just love the color of it. And so after I glue those two together, I'm just making a little sprig with some little pieces of picks that I have kind of disassembled. And I just wrap some twine around the top of those to get them all pieced together. And you could totally skip this step if you wanted to. That ribbon looks beautiful as it is. And using some twine that I tie on the top there, I'm just tying that little piece of evergreen on there. And then I will snip all of the tails off there because I decided I did not want any of that. And then I just kind of put a little glue on the back of that evergreen there so it would glue to the front and it stay put and wouldn't move around. And then I just made a little shoestring bow to go on this. And I thought that was so cute. You could leave it like this and it would be absolutely beautiful. But I did have these little stars from Dollar Tree, and I'm sorry that you can't see it right here. You'll see it in the finished product. But I just put one of those stars at the top of the Christmas tree, and then I thought this is some baker's twine that I have, and you can get this at Dollar Tree also. But I like to buy the red and white on Amazon because you can actually get more of it for a better deal than you get at Dollar Tree. The other colors you get at Dollar Tree are definitely a better value, but the red and white you can get a little bit cheaper other places. But I just wrapped it around the tree and then just tied it off. And that way I didn't have to glue it on. So if I wanted to remove it or I didn't love how it looked, I could do that. But look at how cute that is. Oh my gosh, this is beautiful. I absolutely love this. I did add a little tea light into that jar. You cannot see it in this photo, but it adds the most beautiful glow, especially with all those little ridges and marks in that jar from Dollar Tree. So if you find that jar, pick it up to do this project with because it's beautiful. I found this really cute sign at Dollar Tree, and I mean, it's beautiful the way that it is, but I bought a couple of them to redo for different seasons, and I thought it would be really fun to have one for Christmas. So I really love the window pane kind of detailing on here. So I'm just carefully putting my putty knife underneath that. I was able to slide it in under one of the corners, and then I'm just going to gently go around and peel this back. Now, it by all means does not peel off super smooth. As most things from Dollar Tree, it's kind of hit or miss when you are peeling things back, but it ends up being okay. I didn't keep any of the other little scrap pieces you can see off to the side. It ended up gluing back on just fine. So I just took my mister bottle and sprayed. This is just like a paper graphic that's been glued onto the top. So I'm just spraying that with my mister, and then I'm using my putty knife to scrape that back. You could also just get like a damp rag and soak that on it, like just press that down on it for maybe 5 or 10 minutes to kind of loosen all of that paper up, get some moisture under that, and it scrapes off extremely easy. And then here I'm just wiping it down with a dry paper towel just to get any of the excess residue off. This scrapbook paper came from either Hobby Lobby or JoAnns, and I thought it was giving off some really fun candy cane vibes, so that's why I decided to go with it. I liked the diagonal direction of the stripes. So I'm just tracing the shape of my sign out there, and then you want to cut this just a little bit bigger than your sign, have a little bit of an overhang on the edge there, and to get this to bond to your surface, I'm just using some purple Elmer school glue stick. I love this stuff. I have projects that I've made over several years with this glue, and the bond is still holding. I've never had a problem with the paper lifting up or it stop holding the paper or anything. It is just fantastic. I do use a brayer like I'm doing here to get that nice complete bond. And then to make your edges nice and clean looking, I'm using a fingernail file in a downward motion. That just makes the paper look like it was cut to size for your project. It gives it the nicest finished look. And then I'm going to just glue back the window pane detail here with just a little bit of super glue around the edges. I want to make a little 3-dimensional wreath to go in one of the window panes. So I'm just going to take some foam core board. You could use some cardboard. You just want something of about that same thickness. And I will just trace it out and then cut out with my X-Acto knife to get a miniature wreath form. I will cut the center of it out as well so you can kind of see what that form looks like there. It by no means needs to be a perfect circle, so don't worry about it if it looks kind of jagged and not the best. It's going to turn out fine because I'm just taking some boxwood and I will cover it with a little bit of glue, and that Walmart boxwood, I just glue it on in the same direction all the way around that wreath form to create a miniature wreath. This boxwood is absolutely amazing. It's so versatile for all different seasons. I absolutely love it. So pick some up when you're at Walmart, have it in your stash because I use it for so many different projects and I think that you will too. Now I picked up some wood letters at Hobby Lobby. You can get wood letters at Walmart as well. And you could also use like the Dollar Tree stickers if you wanted to. You could use a vinyl cutting machine if you had the access to one of those, hand letter it. There's several different ways that you can get your letters. I'm just using wood and I just stained them with a little bit of antiquing wax and dry brushed a little bit of white paint on them. I just wanted them to kind of match that detailing that is on the window pane on there, so that way it all looks kind of cohesive. And then I'm just using a little bit of super glue to glue those down, as well as the wreath. Now you could leave the wreath just plain green. I really love Christmas time when you get to go over the top and embellish things to the max. So I took that advantage of that and got some little berries here. This is just a pick from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to sporadically glue a bunch of them around the wreath. It would be really fun to tie in your home colors that you do for Christmas with this. So if you do more of a neutral color Christmas, you could have a neutral color paper, as well as using like some white berries on there would be really pretty. I just feel that that kind of really drives home the Christmas feel to the sign. Now I'm taking some ribbon here. I picked this up at JoAnns, and this is actually the same ribbon that I've used throughout my entire home. So it's really going to match everything and make everything look cohesive together. So you can see I just took some ribbon to pinch together here to make the tails and the loops. And then I will take one little bit of the ribbon to kind of make it look like it was all tied as one piece. If you're looking for a way to kind of refresh your Christmas decor, every few years I will go buy several new spools of ribbon and I will change out the ribbons on my trees, on my wreaths, any little decor that I have where I hang my stockings. It's just kind of a nice way to refresh your Christmas decor for very inexpensive, but have everything look kind of new and refreshed and have it all match. I just love that. So I'm just gluing this bow on the top here to finish this off. Kind of looks like a little present. I think this turns out beautiful. I really love that cute little wreath with those berries on there. I think this is going to be just the perfect little shelf sitter or on a tiered tray, even a gift for somebody. I think this turns out just so beautiful and the perfect little Christmas item. You take something from Dollar Tree and kind of add to it, make it your own, and I just think it turns out beautifully. So for this project, I have these two signs from Dollar Tree, and you can use any signs. They have these for every season in different decor. Some of them are a little bit of a different size, so just keep that in mind. I'm using my heat tool and my putty knife just to get the stickers off of the back of it because I want to use this back side as the front of my sign. So I just gently sand down the stickiness there. And I'm going to use a combination of wood glue and hot glue to get these two pieces glued together because I need the sign to be a little bit wider than what one of these is. So I'm putting them together to have a larger size sign. So I'm also putting a little bit of super glue on here along that crack between the two, and I'm going to use some craft sticks that I put some hot glue on for that quick hold there, and I'm just putting those on so that way the sign is very stable. It's very sturdy anyway, so I don't know that this would have been necessary, but I really just didn't want it coming apart. And I will cover the back up with some craft paper. Now I'm just taking some like joint compound or like spackling and just putting between the cracks here to make it look like it's one piece of wood. I don't go all the way down to the middle because I have, as you can see, my bag off to the right there. I'm going to be putting that on, so it's going to cover the middle, but it will show at the top edge and the bottom edge. So I just wanted to make sure that it looked like one side. Now you guys, I learned this hack from the Rusted Willow. She is awesome. I'll link her channel down below, so if you want to go visit her, but she keeps her
antiquing wax in these little squeeze jars that you get at Dollar Tree. And I thought, this is the most brilliant thing. And I just happened to be watching one of her videos and saw this and was like, this is a genius. I'm totally going to do it. I don't know if she came up with it or what, but I just saw it in one of her videos. But look, you can just go pour that right out onto your piece and you have control over how much. I'm not having to pour some out and then pour it back in or dip it. I just thought this was such a brilliant hack, and so I just thought I would pass it on and share it because I absolutely loved it, and so far it's working great for me. And you can see like how the precision is that you get on the edge. Now I'm covering this whole thing in the antiquing wax because I want to do a crackle method with it. So you can paint this any color that you want to do your sign. You're just going to match the packaging that you purchased, like the gift wrap that you purchased. Now this is Folk Arts Crackle Medium here. I just picked this up at Hobby Lobby, but I know there are several other brands. I have yet to use any other brands, just this one. It works great, but if you have and trust another product, keep using that. Let me know in the comments if you do have another one that you're like, no, try this one. It's even better, because I love trying new products. Now you put this on, and I put it on pretty liberally and let it dry. It says on here, I'm finding it here, let it dry for 1 hour. I let mine dry overnight because I did this late at night one time, and I just thought it would set together really, but you just want it dry. So then you come in with your top coat, and you do not want to go over where you have painted. You don't want to disturb the process at all. And I do that at one point here, and it'll kind of show you. Then I kind of mess it up and have to go touch it up. But you just want to get your top coat on here. And I feel like the thicker the paint, the bigger the cracks you're going to have. And so just keep that in mind as you're doing this. And you can kind of see how quickly it takes. I mean, this is just after a couple of minutes. I'm wet distressing the edges so they blend in a little bit there. So I just took a wet paper towel and went down the sides there to create a little bit of detail. Now I'm just going to cut my bag out here. This sign, I love this little Noel sign. All of the pieces that I'm using from this line of gift wrap are all kind of neutral and kind of a woodsy feel, and I really was loving that vibe together. But that's what's so fun is I got these all at Walmart. Go to your department stores or your like Walmart or Target or wherever you buy your gift wrap that's going to sell a whole set with matching tissue paper and like 3 or 4 bags in the set, and see what you can come up with, because it makes such a great, that's what's so fun about this is you have a whole set of pieces to display together rather than just like a one-off from Dollar Tree. Now I used some water on the edge of this to tear out so it had more of a natural edge rather than a cut edge, where it's not going to fit flush with the sign. Is going to be displayed on the sign so it doesn't go quite to the edges, so you can see that crackle. I thought that would be a little bit more of a rustic look and look a little bit more natural, like it was intentional. And I just used some of my school glue. If you want to do Mod Podge, that would work too, whatever technique you like to use. I don't have the most success with Mod Podge and thicker paper. That could just be a me issue though, so do what you know. Now I just put some hot glue around the edge on the back. This is just some craft paper. You just buy it in the roll. You can get it at Walmart, Dollar Tree. Christmas time, you can find like the brown paper wrapping, which is a little bit thicker, and I really do like that. So pick some of that up as the holiday season is around the corner, and you'll start to see some of that wrapping in the stores. Now I'm just sanding a little bit around the edge to give a clean edge to this, so that way it looks very nice and precise on the back. And I go over with some Mod Podge to seal the paper, so that way it's going to last for years to come. But look at how beautiful this sign is. I love that it's tall, it's thick. I think that crackle looks so pretty with that Noel on there. I think this is going to look so great with the vignette. What do you guys think of this piece? Is this something that you would try? Are you liking this idea with the gift wrap and doing the decorating pieces with it?
I've had this little nativity ornament for a little while, and I really felt like if I was to put it on my tree, it might kind of get lost in there, and I really did want to showcase it, since we do like to have a lot of decor that does remind us of the true meaning of Christmas and the nativity, and I just love it. It's this little like wrought iron. It's really flat. It's just very simple,
very rustic. So I'm just cutting off the little hanger from it with some wire cutters here, and then I will just sand that down so it's not sharp at all. And I just used some elephant chalk paint and some silver lining and just kind of stained these little paint sticks that I got at Lowe's. And you can see how cute that looks. And I'm just doing that to kind of measure for where I want to cut the paint sticks down to, so that way I'll have a background. Now you can do whatever you would like with an ornament like this for a background. This is just to give you some inspiration or some ideas here, but I'll just cut these down. You can cut them down however you would. If you have some miter shears or something like that, that would probably work as well. But you can see that I love the shape of that, how it fits. So I just glue the ends I cut off on the back with some wood glue and hot glue, and that's what's going to hold all of this together. Now I want to brighten it up a little bit, so I'm just using some plaster chalk paint and just doing a very heavy dry brush on here. So that way that kind of rustic metal, it's like a rustish brown color, it's not quite black, will really pop against this, and it's just going to look like really weathered wood there. And I kind of decide that it needs a little something extra, so I stain a few more pieces of my painter sticks, and I'm going to cut them. I'm going to make a little roof line, like a barn roof line on this. So on the ones that I'm going to put on my roof, I do stain a little bit darker, and then you can see those ones I cut at an angle. I'm kind of making a little roof line there and just gluing those with some other little pieces. So there we go, looks kind of like a little barn or a little house, and then I'm just gluing these together for the roof. Now you could easily use one of the little houses that you find at Dollar Tree or whatever you can find, but I thought this was super fun, super cute, and I think it's just going to look really cute when it's done. So I glue the roof on here, and then I do a little dry brushing on that, and just use some gel super glue to glue this nativity on. Now it looks absolutely beautiful the way that it is here. I just love how simplistic this looks, but you know me, I have to kind of extra everything. So I have some barn wood from a barn that we tore down a little while ago. So I just take a couple of pieces of that. This would be completely optional. You could find anything else that you would like to do with this to add a different background to it, but I really liked the idea of using something that was special to us, like our barn that we tore down and the barn wood from that, and how simple of the nativity with the stable and the wood. I just thought it all went really well, and the special meaning that it had for my family. But this is really all there is to this. It's very simple, but I think it is so beautiful and so elegant, and what a wonderful reminder of the true meaning of Christmas.
I found these darling little house signs at Dollar Tree on one of my recent trips there, and I think they're so cute. Now, I bought a second one because there was only 4 letters on the one sign, and if you want to add extra letters or anything, I bought another one so that way I can take off, and you can see I'm just going to twist this last one off. It does have like a little metal rod going through them, so I just slip that off, and I'm just going to add that to the end of my sign. Now if you can come up with a 4-letter word, I mean, definitely just stick with that, but I like the fact that I could customize it a little. So I'm just using this DAP Rapid Fuse, and I'm just going to glue that last little house onto here. Now you can use you can freehand your letters on there. You can buy the little metal letters at Dollar Tree. You can use, I'm using some wood cutout letters. You can buy alphabets of those at craft stores, on Etsy. You can also use your cutting machine or stickers to do different letters, but I'm just going to paint this the color that matches my decor. It does take a couple of coats to get rid of the letters that are currently there, so you don't see those. So you can customize this for whatever season, whatever colors your decor is. It's a really fun and simple project to do. Now I had the letters, I could have done the word Noel on the 4-letter one, which would have been really cute just to leave it, but I have the letters Mary here, and since I added that extra one, that's what I'm going to go with. But just to give you an idea, if you happen to find one of the houses and want to make it for Christmas, Noel would be perfect to put on the 4 little houses. So I'm just going to glue these letters on. I just leave them in the natural wood tones because it matches the little beads in between. But again, you can customize this. I'm just giving you some great ideas for when you find it, what you can use to do it. Even some little like rub-on transfers on each of the houses would be really cute. But I think this turns out beautiful. It's very simple. It's an easy project, and it really does add a great touch of color to your decor. And even the way that it was originally was very cute, but this just makes it a little bit more, have a personal touch to it. What do you guys think of this? Was this an easy project you guys would try?
You guys know that I am a big fan of checking out your wedding section at your craft store. I found this darling sign there that somebody would probably just overlook, thinking, oh, I don't need a sign that says sign our guest book. And maybe you've had a wedding and you have something like this sitting around, and you can totally make it be something that you can use for your decor. So I just take it outside and I sand off that design because I don't need anybody to sign my guest book. And I just sand it with my electric sander. And I'm going to go over the top of it with just a light brushing of just some chalk paint. I go really light at first. I do get a little bit heavier than this, but I just take my time going slowly so I don't overdo it. But I do want a very rustic look to this sign, but I wanted it to be a little bit brighter than what that background left. I am a big fan of finding different ways to make signs, and I'm going to show you guys how to print on tissue paper today. I am a big fan of this. So I'm just taking a piece of paper and a piece of tissue paper, and I am printing it where you'll have a shiny side of the tissue paper and kind of a dull side. And you want, at least I like to print on the dull side. So I print it or tape it with the shiny side towards the paper so the ink will not slip on that shine, that it will have something on that little matte dull side to adhere to. Now this is the first time I've tried printing on an entire page like this. I'll usually just tape a little section onto the front of my paper, but I want my sign to be the whole size of my paper. So I am just taping all of the edges down. So as you saw, I put my piece of paper down and I'm just folding all of the edges over. That way I have the entire surface area of the front of the paper for my design to print on. Now I make sure that all of my edges are completely taped down, and so I just go over them. You can see how that looks here. And then I have got this entire front surface here, and I just feed this through my printer like a normal piece of paper. So you obviously want this side right here up for your design to print on, and you can see how big the design looks and how good it looks. I purchased this design from one of my favorite graphic shops on Etsy. I'll leave the link down in the description box. They have different designs for all sorts of seasons, and they're absolutely beautiful. So now I'm just carefully removing the tissue paper. It doesn't matter if the back of this tissue paper rips at all because we're going to cut the excess off, but I obviously don't want to go just, willy-nilly and pull this off really quickly and have it end up ripping the front of the design. And also make sure that you give a fair amount of drying time to your design. I waited about an hour after I'd printed this. I was just busy doing some other DIYs, letting this dry completely. And you can kind of see how the ink goes through the tissue paper onto that normal piece of paper. So you just want to make sure to give it a little bit of drying time so that way you don't have any problems with the ink smearing or anything. So now I'm just cutting off the excess of tissue paper all around this sign so it will fit onto the top of our surface. So I just take some Mod Podge and place that down. Now you can use glossy, you can use luster, satin, whatever type of Mod Podge you have is going to be just fine. And I just lay the tissue paper down, and then I sped this up a little bit, but I do just gently rub with my finger to kind of get as many of the bubbles and wrinkles out. Now it's tissue paper and a liquid, so you are going to get a little bit of the wrinkles, and that's totally fine, especially with the rustic look. And but you can see here, if it gets too bad, I can just kind of pull it up gently, and I can kind of reassess and adjust things if I need to kind of keep rubbing that design down to get it completely adhered to the surface. Now, if your sign has these grooves like my sign has, I'm just taking a paintbrush with a little bit of water on it, and I'm going over the top of this. This goes right through the tissue paper. I get it wet first, and then I will go back over it to kind of make those indentations in the design so it looks like this is actually part of the wood. You want to make sure to go over and seal everything in with another layer of Mod Podge. This is just going to seal in the ink. It's going to give it a little bit of waterproofness. If water was to get splashed on it or anything, you wouldn't have any problems with that ink bleeding or anything like that. Then to help the top and the bottom of the sign where I have the excess blend in, I'm just dry brushing a little bit of antiquing wax onto there. It glides on very smoothly with that layer of Mod Podge there. And then I pay attention to the edges, and so it looks like that sign blends completely in. And then I go over the tissue paper with a little bit of the white paint that I painted the sign with, just a dry brush, just to kind of give it a little bit of an aged look. So now I felt like this sign, you could leave it the way that it is, but I felt like it needed a little bit of embellishment. So I'm just tying just a normal shoestring bow out of this buffalo check ribbon that I have, and just kind of making my loops down to size of how big I want the bow. And then we're going to add some greenery and things to this.
I'm just taking some leftover greenery and some little red berries from other picks that I have cut down, and I just tie a couple together, and I'm going to use some hot glue to glue the berries in each side there because the stems weren't long enough to tie together like the greenery was. And then I'm just going to, you can see, just glue those right in there, and then I will glue this to the top of the sign here. So, and I do that just using a little bit of hot glue, and then you just want to make sure to hold that in place until that completely dries. And then the same thing, just glue that bow onto the front. And then I just dovetail the ends of my bow. You can cut them at an angle, do however you like to do the ends of your bows. I did leave my tails longer so it would kind of drape down the sign. So you can see I'm just using a little bit of hot glue there. That's just going to help my tails kind of hang and droop the way that I want them to. And then I just kind of do a little bit of fluffing on the bow and everything there. And look at how absolutely darling this is. I think this is beautiful. This would be such an easy project to make and sell if you had a booth. I just think this is so cute, and I'm so excited to get to decorate with it.
I would like to thank you so much for joining me for today's compilation video. I hope that you enjoyed all of these DIYs. If you had a favorite, let me know down in the comments. I always love to hear which ones you guys like the best. Thank you so much for watching today. I'll see you next time. Happy crafting! If you like the video that you just saw and you want to keep crafting together, here's another video that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.